Good evening, I am Amadin Ogbewe. Now tonight we will be looking ahead at the 16 days of activism set to begin very shortly, starting November 25th and ending December 10th. We'll be taking a look at what these 16 days means in terms of advocacy against sexual and gender-based violence, and I'll be trying to break down what this year's 16 days hopes to achieve in addition to what has been happening over the years. Tonight I've been joined by a sexual and gender-based advocate, Mrs. Lois Amele. She joins me now to do justice to the matter and to break down what it really means to advocate for the protection of women and girls. Mrs. Lois, welcome to Top Talk.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. So just to get everyone carried along, we'd like to start from the basics. What exactly is the 16 days of activism? What does it mean?
Okay, so the 16 days of activism is a day that starts from the 10th of November, the 25th of November to the 10th of December. And it starts with elimination of violence against women, and then it ends with the World Human Rights Day. So the 16 days of activism is a time frame where we advocate to end violence against women and girls. This year our team is invest, to end violence against women and girls. That's our team this year, and our hashtag is no excuse. All
right, so tell us what we hope to achieve this time around. Every 16 days, sometimes we see people participate, do that, and then things kind of lose momentum to an extent. What are the goals this time around? Okay,
there are a lot of goals, and I would say that it's important that we keep advocating because sometimes it looks like it's not working, and then sometimes it feels like every time you're just doing all the women stuff. But it's important that we keep advocating, not minding what is going on, because we can see that the prevalence, is still going up. You still see a lot of battery on women and all of that. Even though I was somewhere and someone was telling me that we had up to 340 men that were battered by their wives last from July till September. It was a report, and I was so shocked. And I know that that is also an issue, and we're coming to that. So the goals. The goal is let's invest to prevent, violence against women and girls. What can we do? What are the things that we can do to prevent violence against women and girls? That is the goal this time. Let's invest in legislation, put more laws out there, policies, implementation, because there are laws out there, but their implementations are the problem. We have the Child Rights Act, we have VAP Act, that's the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, but then we need, to start implementing them. And as an organization, we brought up a topic. It's not snitching, it's reporting. Because a lot of people will say, no, I don't want to go and tell anything about my community before this person will say, this is what I said. All of those things. But then we are going to communities, and we'll be having one community outreach, two community outreach actually during this period. And we'll be talking to those people about the fact that it's important that they report sexual and gender-based issues.
That's interesting, talking about the responsibility of the third party now, because people feel it's just for those within. But what more do you think can be done in terms of cultural ideologies? There is this belief that once a woman marries, and it's both from the woman's family and the family she's entering, that she has sort of been given to this new family. Yeah. And that
especially the fact that they pay the bride price.
Yes. So I don't know if bride price is also an issue, but also the fact that they say, whatever happens, don't come back. This is no longer your house. That kind of ideology. Are those the kind of things that we should be looking out for? Okay.
There are harmful traditional practices, and a lot of people don't like to mention this other part where their parents say, no third party in your marriage. It is you and your husband. So just go. Don't ever. If you see this street, when you see this street, don't come back to this street again. You hear a lot of people saying that. But now, with the things going on, a lot of parents have stopped saying that. These streets, you see these streets, don't come back. A lot of parents have stopped saying that, and that's because of the violent act that is going on. We have over 736 million globally that are living with the consequences of sexual violence, physical violence, emotional violence globally, and that is a huge number. 736 million is a huge number. So I want to say that cultural barrier is always there. We always have, cultural barriers and all of this. When you go, don't come back, because when you come back, it's a shame to our family name and all of that. But I would advise parents, I would advise people that are getting married and all of that, those that still believe in it, because a lot of people now have started understanding that, please, I don't want my daughter dead back, coming back to me. I want her alive. So a lot of people have stopped saying that. We're not saying that marriage is not a good thing. We're saying marriage is a good thing, but we're saying it is important that don't tell your daughter that when there's something going on, she cannot come and tell you, because she probably would not confide to any other person apart from you. She may tell her friend, and her friend will just advise her, oh, now so the thing they be. Now so, some people can just say some things, but you are her parent. You love her. So I would say it is important that you should make a situation where she can come back and always want to talk to you. Create a forum. Like I will always say, create a safe space and a safe place. Now the safe space is that environment, and the safe place is your mind. So your mind has to be in a safe space, and then your environment has to be safe. And I feel like your family where you grew up in is a safe place for you. So I feel like that is a cultural barrier, and there are a lot of cultural barriers out there. Let me not say barrier, let me say norms. We have the female genital mutilation, which is something that I advocate, to end seriously, because we have over 200 million women globally in over 29 countries that live with the consequences of female genital mutilation. I'm quoting UNFPA website. And it's a serious issue because it's costing a lot of things. We see how Fatima Hassan Ahmed died due to female genital mutilation. She was caught, and after she was caught, after 2 days, she peeled out the wound. And when she peeled, she bled to death. We have seen series of cases, and we keep saying that FGM do not have any health benefit. It doesn't have. For the male circumcision, we call it circumcision for male because it's not a gruesome violation of their right. And we can see that the Association of Pediatricians talk about the fact that a male can be circumcised because it reduces penile cancer and so on. But for females, it doesn't do anything to help her health and all of that. So we have FGM, we have child betrothal. It's still there. We have child betrothal. Okay. When the child is still young, and then if they say it's not married yet, yes, she's promised to someone. Is also a thing. There are a lot of them. We have child bride. We have breast ironing. We have a lot of cultural this thing. And the reason some people will be listening to us and be like, is this thing still happening? It's still happening. It's still happening, especially with the fact that we had the pandemic the other time. It has caused a rise in some of these issues because a lot of people at home, they had opportunities to learn these crafts and all of that. You see some people, they see advertisements in some states that come and learn how to circumcise and all of that. So we're saying it is wrong and it should not continue. A lot of guys will be thinking, and boys will be thinking that, this advocacy thing is always going to women. But the prevalence is high when it comes to women. You can see that I've been calling a lot of numbers, and when it comes to the male, it's not up to that number. So that's the reason why we are here, and we keep talking about the fact that violence against women and girls should stop.
Indeed. It's an advocacy that needs to continue.
Yeah.
You brought up an issue about bride price. I don't know if you have anything to say about that, because some persons call for the outright abolition of it, that it has no place anymore. I don't know. Is there a middle ground?
Okay, let me cite my wedding as an example. So, I don't know for other Yoruba weddings, but during my own wedding, my parents did not collect bride price. You will bring it because it's traditional, it's cultural that you bring it. So you will bring it, and when you bring it, they'll tell you, we are not selling our children, or we're not selling our children, so take your money back, but we accept you as our family, we accept you, as a husband to our child. That's what they do. But some other tradition, they will collect like 20 naira, collect 10 naira. That's not even the amount of, So some people do that, and I think it has a lot to do with the mindset of people. They believe that I bought you. That's the reason why I think they want to stop the thing about bride price. The fact that people believe that I bought you. So since I bought you, I bought all those things during they will ask for education. I paid your education, but definitely you cannot pay for all her life. So bride price is just a mindset thing, and I feel like it's very shallow to want to say that you paid for a full human being. It's thinking shallow, So I feel like bride price is just a traditional thing, and it's just sweet if your tradition is sweet. But for some other tradition that they ask you to bring so much, I don't know, it's outrageous to me. But and that's the reason why some of these men will say, see, I paid. But if you really, how much did you pay. You know, it's not enough for you to mistreat another human being. It's not nice, it's not kind.
At the end of the day, even if you paid $1 trillion,
exactly,
you can't buy a human life.
Exactly.
So, in the course of your, your work as a sexual and gender advocate, do you have any experiences you'd like to share? Because as we're entering the 16 days of activism, sometimes people like to hear on the ground stories, the ones that have happy endings, even the ones that perhaps do not, can also inspire someone to help someone out there. So if you can share any of that with us.
Okay. So I don't know which one I will share now. It's a lot in my mind.
I can imagine.
It's a lot in my mind, but let me share this particular one because it makes me happy when I think about it. So there was this girl we met, and she was raped. She was drugged, actually. Her drink was drugged, and she was raped, and she... It's a lot. It's a lot of story around that. And then she reported to the police. The police now called and reported to advocates around. And then, her case was picked. In fact, I took her to SAC office. I was part of the team that took her to SAC office. We went to check if she was okay, because then she was already 5 months gone and everything, and there was nothing we could do about it. And the guy was already bragging, "There's nothing you can do to me."
5 months gone. Sorry.
She was already pregnant. She was 5 months gone. And the person that impregnated her has a family already, and she didn't know the person had a family. And apart from that, the girl was selling at a bar, and the woman was not paying her. The woman was trafficking her. So instead of paying her, she would tell one of the customers that you can take this one home, and things like that. And we took her to SAC office, she was checked, and she was okay. And she called me some days back, and that she has delivered and everything. And, justice has found the other guy, and, it just made me happy because she's in a good place. She found help mentally, because that's another thing that a lot of people need to look into, mental health. She found help mentally, and she's fine. And she's not hating on the baby. A lot of people, when they go through that, especially with the fact that it's a rape case, the father is not someone that is coming forth to want to help and everything. She's okay now. She's doing well, and I'm happy that she's doing well. I've had other instances, of people that have met me, and then we just had this discussion. They've been raped, we talk, because I'm also certified for mental health. We talk, and they are doing well. They were not pregnant, but they are doing well now. So I would say that rape is still an issue in Nigeria. And I don't know what to say about it, because it breaks my heart every single time when it's a 14-year-old girl. There was even a case that I just finished handling. She's 16. It was a child marriage case. She's 16. In fact, we had the case together with NAPTIB and everything. And, now she's okay. She's in a shelter and she's doing well. But it's still an issue in Nigeria. We have sexual assault. It's still an issue in Nigeria. Sexting, when you sex somebody, when you send somebody your private parts, all of those things. When you go to the market, and there's this name they call it, I've forgotten what they call it. Catcalling, exactly. It's still an issue. Hey, fine girl, all those things. It's still an issue in Nigeria. People think it's okay that since they're telling you you're a fine girl, but those girls don't like it when you say those things to them. So sexual harassment is still, and that's one of the things that we're looking at eradicating. Cyberbullying is still a big issue, and it's still part of those things that we're talking about, during the 16 days of activism.
Speaking about, abuse, is the definition a bit broader now in terms of some persons don't want to come to terms with the fact that they might have been abused, because what they consider or what is termed abuse, they believe it is just normal. Particularly with the, if I should, so bold as to take an example with the Nigerian dating scene. There is an ideology sometimes that is passed, usually to women and guys, that if you like someone, that is as a woman, and he approaches you, you have to tell him no multiple times. And I'm taking that not just from maybe just speaking now, even when it is maybe something more physical. That you are meant to say no, and if he likes you, he will persist. But if you break that down, what we are really seeing is that a woman is saying no multiple times, and a man is persisting, which is, it seems very clear that it's abuse. But when you try and explain to people, they say, no, that's just how things are done. So I don't know, do you think people are aware that there are definitions? For instance, people don't believe that if you are married, you can be raped. I mean, by
the
spouse,
same, yes, exactly.
It's not possible. It's a marriage. So there's another instance I think that is very scary for a lot of people to admit, which is that even in a marriage, if a man propositions his wife or wants to, and she says no, and he continues till she says yes, he didn't actually force her, but he kept asking, pestering till she said yes, and people say it's just marriage. It's not, but then it's also.
Yes, it's still part of it.
Exactly. So, do you think people are aware of these broad definitions, or it has become so normalized that it's not considered such?
Yes, you've brought a lot of scenarios into this, and I would say that it's the mindset of a lot of people. And for the girl that would say no, keep saying no, the mindset behind that is because she wants you to believe that she's not cheap. So I think it's just the fact that a lot of people need to change their mindset around things like this. They feel like, oh, if I say no to him and then he keeps coming, whenever we're married and something happened, I'll be able to tell him that, you're the one that came to look for me multiple times and I was saying no to you, and now you got me and now you are misbehaving. And that's the reason why a lot of men now go and start misbehaving after, getting the lady that they've been fighting to get. So it's the mindset around it. And I want to say that if you like somebody, just say yes to the person if you want to, and if the person makes you happy. Instead of saying a couple of no and then making the person feel as if the person, number one, the person feels like, okay, am I not doing well? Is my job or something? So it now makes the person go into like a mental disorder or sort of, so there are a lot of things. And then when it comes to marriage and the woman is saying no and then you are still forcing, then that's abuse. That's abuse, because sexual assault is when the person keeps saying no and then you insist that I want to do this to the person. So that's sexual assault. Indeed, depending on, because some people will say no, it's depending on the kind of penetration or whatever it may be. But whatever it is, even touching is harassment. So if you don't want it and the person keeps doing it to you, you can invoke your VAP Act or whatever the act, the penal code or whatever you want to.
Right. I think it's just a case of people being scared that if I start to admit these things, then somebody I think is loving and kind might not, might be given that tag. And I think that's another issue here. In terms of there are people who belittle the experiences of survivors. They say, if he did this to you, why did you go back? If he did this to you, why did you stay? I don't know if you can help us out with those dynamics. There's a particular example that has been trending for a while now, wherein a woman who is being abused seeks help from a third party. The third party gives her money, gives her something to help her. And then the third party finds out later that she reconciled with her husband. And then they start to, kind of condemn the woman that, why did you, stuff like that. So, I don't know, should people be more empathetic? What's really going on from that mindset where it seems from the a layman's perspective that someone is returning to someone who is abusing them? Okay,
I would say that we have seen a lot of these cases, even when you try to talk to them, and that's the reason why they don't want you to report those cases. If you can look at the case of Osinachi, we can see that, of blessed memory, we can see that, she actually told a friend or a sister about it, and then that person did not tell anybody. And remember when we first started, I cited the topic that we're going to be talking about in my organization. It's not snitching, it's reporting. And that's because it is important that you talk to them, that, let's talk to somebody about this. Let's help, So third parties are very, very important when it comes to, relationship and stuff. But then belittling the feelings of the victim of the survivor is a serious thing, because I've seen that a lot, especially when it comes to our judiciaries, the particular one I'm talking about, when you go to their decks, they start saying, what's carry you go there? You must see the short skirts where you wear, they start blaming you and all of that. And I would say that it's important that we have gender decks when it comes to cases of sexual and gender-based violence, because you are able to communicate with that person on a personal note, and the person is a professional, and the person can really, respond to you, and the person knows what you're going through, So not just gender decks. I want a situation where we can have women courts as well. I know there's one in Lagos, but I don't know if there's one in Abuja, where people can really ask you important questions like, okay, so are you okay? What's going on? How did it happen? Not how you starts with the blame game. How you take reach there? Why you said they were car for night? Because a lot of things can happen. So anybody, and even you that you're asking that question, a lot of things can happen, especially with the world that we're in these days. When you just enter a car and you feel you're safe, and at the end of the day, you notice that it's a one-chance car. So you cannot belittle a survival, feeling or whatever the survivor is going through at that particular time. You may have gone through it and say, maybe the thing happened to me. It may happen to you in a different way from the way it happened to that person. So you don't undermine the feeling of someone.
Indeed,
that's what I'll say.
I think there's an example that comes to mind. A young woman who was, before it happened, I'll just say that what people say, like you say, is that, what were you wearing? Yeah. Why were you in his house? Why were you in a club? This was a young woman, a young lady, a girl, a student, who went to church to read. I think you can see the layers there. First of all, she was in church. Secondly, she was there to study before
I think I heard
church
that
happens.
Story.
And in the church, she was raped and murdered. So you can now ask the question: what did she do wrong? If you must blame the victim, which you should not, who do you blame in this instance? She was in church, a holy place, and it was desecrated with all of that.
I would even add to that and say that it's important that we train even the journalists on the type of questions they ask. Because
accept survivors.
Yes, ask survivors. Because I was doing a training for one broadcast station. I was doing a training for their interns and even some of the reporters on questions that you can ask. Because you cannot just ask some certain type of question. It would not allow the person to open up to you. The journalists, judiciaries, and even you passing on the street, there are questions you can ask. Oh, what's going on? If you ask some certain kind of question, I see the way, the person would not want to open up, because the first thing is the person is looking at you that you want to judge me. And when they see that you want to judge them, then they just lock up, because they say, whatever I want to say, this person would not want to listen, or this person would continue to throw the blame game. So it's important that there are trainings that comes up for both reporters, judiciaries, and all of those people on how to, help, because it's important that there's this thing we used to call them bystanders. It's important that we have bystanders, and you can be a bystander. So, it's important that you know how to now help, how to assist a survivor when you see one.
All right, I believe that's fair enough. There's the word is violence, really, but does it end with physical, when we come to abuse?
Okay. It doesn't end with physical. We have different types of violence. We have physical abuse, we have sexual abuse, we have intimate partner abuse. No, physical abuse is when there's, you inflict harm to a person, and then you can see bite marks and all of that. The sexual abuse, like we've said earlier, it has to do with rape, sexual harassment, and all of that. Then we have emotional abuse. I used to say this is the first one that usually happens before domestic violence happens, because you now begin to say things like, you are useless, you this useless woman, one thing, and from there it becomes domestic abuse. Then you start beating, and domestic abuse is not just between husbands and wife. Domestic abuse can be to elderly people, to children, domestic, anything that happens in the home, that's domestic violence. But then intimate partner violence is the one that happens between, spouse. Then we have a harmful traditional practice that, like I've explained earlier, when we listed female genital mutilation and all of the other ones. So there are a lot of abuse out there. Cyberbullying is now part of it now, where you threaten to leak a video of somebody's nude video or picture is also part of it these days, and it's something that we also need to look into. And apart from that, a person doesn't need to come close to you before emotional abuse is done these days. They do it online. You know, when they speak psychological abuse, when they speak to you and they tell you, you this useless person, you this, you know, things like that, insultive words and all of that, because we feel as if it doesn't get to the next person. I have a tough skin and all of that, but at the end of the day, you begin to see that, this thing this person said to me is getting to me. So it's something that we really need to stop. Especially, let me just mention this on the streets of Twitter. What's happening there? A lot of things that are happening there, but I'm happy these days that a lot of organizations have begun this trailing. I think TechHa is one organization that is really, you know, fighting to end cyberbullying and all of that. And we have Devatop also. We have some other organizations that are really, you know, at these things. So they try and they talk about some of these things and they keep insisting and, you know, preaching about it, creating awareness about cyberbullying and all of that. Because those people doing it, sometimes I feel like they think they do it to make other people laugh. But it's a bad thing to do, because at the end of the day, somebody is receiving that insult and the person, and that's the reason why you go out, you see a lot of people and you say, people are mad today, but then what are you doing? There's some things you're doing that's making them react the way they are reacting. Even while I was coming, you get to see people acting up and all of that. I know there can be a lot of hardship in town, but then it's important that we also try to prevent harming other people with our words or even physically.
Indeed. I think emotional abuse is the most
yes,
is the most
yes,
controversial, because someone can be doing it and you know, want to hide under the umbrella that, well, I didn't really say anything.
Yes, and there's no evidence sometimes, especially when you're not texting, you're just saying it out. There's no evidence, there's no beat mark like physical that they'll say, okay, where is the evidence? And then you go to the place and say, oh, this is how he beats me. Or you don't get to see that when it comes to emotional. So it's a serious thing. It's a serious thing. Especially
speaking about Twitter, it's also trending at about now. There was someone who said that while she was with a partner, she, you know, told him about her past trauma. You know, only for, you know, in certain moments he brings it up to kind of, you know, win arguments or spite her and stuff like that. And it's just something that I think is alarming the way it's happening, because people. There was another day, you know, someone tweeted about how he stayed with his girlfriend even though she was pregnant for another man. And the impression was that, wow, your girlfriend cheated. Until more people asked questions and he said, oh, it was actually her stepdad. And then someone else had to ask, what do you mean? And then he said it was rape. But the initial framing made it look as though, you know, she cheated and I still took care of the baby. Meanwhile, what happened was that your partner was raped and at the end of the day, you left her, you know, because of that. So I think that's part of it. But I'd like to get, you know, an idea about the legal aspect of this and law enforcement. Okay. We've heard stories of where the survivor, the victim, goes to report to the police and somehow she is the one who ends up in the cell, especially when the perpetrator is someone who has clout and all of that. Yeah. What progress is being made in that regard? The way police, the justice system approaches these things? Because we don't hear a lot about convictions based on rape. We can hear them being arrested and all of that, but we don't always see the end result of it. So is there any progress being made there, and what's the way forward?
I would say that the first thing we need to do when it comes to this legal thing is the fact that a lot of people are not even aware that they have rights. A lot of people are not aware that they have rights. So when these things happen to them, they just take it to social media where everybody is a judge. You understand? And then everybody begins to throw their own tantrum, you know, and all of that. So I want to that's one thing I also plan to do during the 16 days of activism, is to make people understand that you also have rights. Please go use your phone, browse, check. You know, there's the VAP Act. You know, go and check it. Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. Go and check it. Go and read. You have rights. And the fact that you now understand that you have rights, that's when you now say, oh, this is what this person have done to me, and it's in so section of the VAP Act. But when you don't even know, then the person keeps, you know, battering and doing a lot of things that you do not want. So we have the VAP Act. We have Child Rights Act when it comes to, you know, child marriage, when it comes to anything that has to do with a child neglect, emotional abuse, and all of that. So it's important that, you know, we go and check your. There are a lot of, you know, laws, human rights laws. You can go and check and you can read so that when anybody is doing something that you don't like, you know what to do, you know how to call your lawyer.
Thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.
And we'll continue to do our own part as the days come back. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.